Hi everybody, welcome to the Queer Network. This is new, this is different. I'm on this side because I'm interviewing those beautiful people. Nykita Veone is
Hello.
here with her dear friend Stephanie Frosch. Or is Steph more appropriate?
Steph's fine.
Steph's fine,
Yeah.
amazing. You also probably know Steph because Steph is an amazing, famous YouTuber, activist, LGBTQ, gay American sweetheart.
Thank you.
She
I
is.
took that from your Instagram.
Yes.
Welcome
She's
to
the
the Queer
gay
Network.
Reese Witherspoon.
The gay
Ooh.
Reese Witherspoon.
Everyone
I-
loves her.
I love it.
Yeah.
I think what I want to talk about the most is the project that you guys have been working on together, which is a bit connected to the interview that I did with Nikki prior to this about her new website called Wearing His Closet. So a little bit more actually before we get to that about how you guys know each other. When did this relationship flourish?
Oh my goodness. Do you want to tell the story or shall I? It's a tragic love
We
story.
can both do it. So we both went to the University of Central Florida for undergrad.
Okay.
And when I was there, I was a year older than Nikki. I was working for LGBTQ plus services at the university.
Okay.
And I was doing my office hours, and it was the summer orientation. And this beautiful human being walks into the office.
Yeah.
Hello. A pleasure.
And do you want to take it from here?
Oh, well, I waddled in because I wanted to. Basically, I was there for freshman orientation.
Yeah.
And it was the first time in my life that I had dressed my gender outside of my house that I lived in. I walked in to stuff just to meet them because I knew that I was eventually going to be needing their services.
Uh-huh.
And 7 years later, we're
And you're
here
still
making
killing
a
it.
movie.
Yeah. So you guys are working together. Now, a little bit of a history about your YouTube experience and like dealing with video and film and the LGBTQ community, the queer community. How did that all come about?
Well, it actually started, I had a Tumblr blog.
Okay.
And at the time, there was no Orange is the New Black. There was no queer representation in media. The only thing we really had was Ellen DeGeneres.
Yeah.
And I was an out femme lesbian, which at the time was not a thing. There weren't many even lesbians on YouTube at the time, let alone a kid right out of high school who was feminine.
Yeah.
And one day I got a message saying, I love what you write, but I hate reading. Could you make a video? So on my webcam on my MacBook, I made a video literally just answering advice questions, and it blew up. And just from there, I mean, I'm entirely self-taught. I then went on to producing at BuzzFeed and making documentaries. And it's what I love to do is just share stories that need to be told.
Yeah. Which this is one of them right
And
here,
it
right
was
now.
just- It was a divine moment. Just
Absolutely.
That was destined to happen.
Now, but you watched all of this, or did you meet before
I had
this
no
had all
idea
happened?
who she was.
Amazing.
I had absolutely no idea. She was a regular Joe to me.
And had you already experienced this fame from YouTube already when you met Nikki?
I mean, I was famous on a small degree in the online internet lesbian world. It's
Yeah.
before my YouTube really took off. I
Okay.
think at the time I didn't even have 50,000 subscribers
Gotcha.
yet. So Nikki was there before the wave kind of took off.
Yeah, I mean, you saw, and it is a crazy
Yeah.
ride. Like
Yeah.
the social media YouTube world is unlike any other aspect of pop culture,
That's for
and
sure.
Yeah.
it's a very strange community.
Yeah.
Beautiful, but also
Yeah.
there's not a lot of like what are the parameters? There's not a lot of guidance about how to
Yeah, because
navigate
we're
it.
inventing it as we go along.
Exactly. It is a new space. So, but also this is what gives us the creative freedom to be doing something that you guys are doing, which is working on a project together. Finally.
Yeah.
What is it? Tell us.
Well, so like
Which is
we
actually how we
talked about-
met.
It's how we met.
Yes.
This is just a lovely moment. So the documentary that we're making started out just as me wanting some behind the scenes footage for my Instagram.
Okay.
Yeah.
Love it.
Of me shooting Wearing His Closet.
Gotcha. Okay.
And after Nikki told me that concept, I was like, this is so much more than that. Like, this is a story that needs to be told, because there are documentaries about the trans experience. There are documentaries and like reality shows about fashion, but there's nothing that tackles a subject in a way that can touch mainstream audiences with something as large as fashion, but hone it in on such a specific topic that needs the most help right now.
And it's called Wearing His Closet because while yes, I am physically wearing the clothes of the men who pursued me and left me because I'm trans, but that is also a greater metaphor for the fact that trans women every single day are victims of the violence. They are wearing the repercussions of the men who are insistent on staying silent and keeping us in their closet.
For those who haven't watched our interview about Wearing His Closet, could you just give everybody a little sense of what this is, and maybe even you want to touch upon it too, to hear your take on it. Yeah, what is Wearing His Closet?
So Wearing His Closet started as Nikki was saying in the other interview, it was a photo series, an editorial shoot in which Nikki reclaimed clothing articles from men of her past who have abused her, affected her, touched her life in any way, specifically because of her trans identity. And the Wearing His Closet documentary aspect is not only Nikki's emotional journey as this project is being created, but now it's starting into an entire movement where we're empowering other trans women to come forward with their articles of clothing and share their experience and create their own closure while bringing this topic to the limelight by creating a limelight movement where even cisgender people are involved. And it's really about having, most of all, I feel like the biggest goal is to have cis straight men aware of this.
Absolutely. Limelight being this beautiful hair that you're wearing.
Limelight. Oh my goodness.
Oh, the words, I love wordplay, so yes, that's amazing.
This is
So,
my hair. What are you talking
of
about?
course. So, whose idea was this? Who came to the table and said we need to do this, or were you were doing behind the scenes for the shoot and then realized there's so much more here? When did it turn into this documentary?
Honestly, I don't remember.
It happened in a text, actually.
Okay.
I
It
remember.
did?
Yeah, because you texted me asking about the behind the scenes stuff. And I remember literally the same voice came in my head of when I read that message saying, I love what you write, but I hate reading. Can you make a video? And I thought, I was like, I love this idea Nikki has, but I hate our society that we live in that just has such short attention spans and wants to visually conceptualize something, which is also a beautiful thing at the same time. So I was like, how can I make Nikki's story resonate with more people? So I thought, let's make a documentary.
Because at the end of the day, like, yes, model, activist, whatever, but I am an artist through and through.
Both of you
And
are.
the way that I portray my art can be a little bit different, and this was a completely different venue for me to do it in. But at the end of the day, I am just trying to create art, but not everyone is able to, it's not palatable for everyone, and not everyone understands what it means. So I think if, like she was saying, if we can get it down into, 1 or 2 hours, people would be able to take a little bit something from it because they can hold their attention enough.
I saw a version of this documentary at Buffer Festival, which is where we met in Toronto. So where is it at in this process? You have a version, but there's more.
Yeah.
There's so much more. It is the most congested.
I have
just,
over
like,
20
pile.
something hours of footage.
And we're not even close to done. Like that was just part of it. Now we're taking it into like, we're addressing even more issues, so we're going to kind of like follow the tour trail. And document that as well. So
what version did you show already? And it's not available for anybody to see yet, is it? Or
not yet.
No?
We showed a short 12-minute version of it for Buffer Festival because of the time constraint. But Scott from Buffer actually wants to take it on tour with a few other LGBTQ plus short films throughout Canada, college campuses. So that way, not only do we get to show this video, but we even want to have a component where we offer like a workshop afterwards, or where these women can come with their clothing articles. So it's just going to become not only a film, but a movement.
Hashtag Wearing His Closet.
Hashtag Wearing His Closet, literally. Which it made no sense to me, and people were like, I hate that name. Well, honestly, it works.
It makes so much sense.
It's what I love is that it claims the power, and it also calls out who we're talking about. That this is actually not about trans women, it's about the men who have abused
It is
the
the men
trans
who
women.
keep us in their own closets. We have to adorn our bodies with the repercussions of their silence.
Yeah.
So we are nothing but in their closet.
How has this opened your eyes?
Besides film, I also do a lot of theater for social change and applied theater. So I already have training and a background with working with diverse audiences, and especially audiences that have been affected by trauma. but it's just affected me so much more because it's so hard to compartmentalize. Like when I'm at work or at a shelter where I'm working with these people, when I'm done for the day, that's it. But Nikki isn't part of my day job. She's part of my life. She's my best friend. And there have been moments where I've never even told you this, where after we film for the day and I know it's been hard for Nikki and I like keep it together, I'm like, you're doing great, I'm her rock, and then I go home and I just break down because this is someone I love and care about. So it's really just showed me just the power of radical empathy and love for one another, and how even someone as your best friend, it's a different light when you see them doing something they love or they're passionate about. Just everyone has so many different masks that they wear in these environments, whether it's work or family or friends, and just seeing all of that stripped bare is something so rare, I think, even with the people we're closest with, and having that was such a privilege.
Yeah, we're all born naked.
And
the rest is drag, everybody. I mean, it's true. It's a nice little catchphrase, but like, I truly believe that, as we even said in our other interview, that we are so much more than these labels and these identifiers that we use. And they're not important, they're just not everything. So what is the next step in this process, and how can people get involved? Is there ways that people can follow this journey? Because I want to know more about where this is headed.
Well, I mean, so the landing page right now is going to be on my website right now for that. We are starting out 2020 with getting together and really establishing what our goals are this year and how we're going to get it done. So we are just as curious as you to probably see where we're going to be going, but we already have things lined up for this year that we're going to be documenting that will prove to be very interesting journeys that I probably didn't think I would ever share, or that maybe she would ever share either.
And then this tour coming up is something on the table that could be a part of the documentary.
That's the thing with documentary filmmaking, is you can have the skeleton, but what goes in it, the skin that it wears, is something that you get to find out in the process. So it's really exciting. I feel like this is something where we all have to strip down a bit to become more raw, but most of all, I just am honored that I get to help tell Nikki's story, because at the end of the day, I'm the person that puts it all together and facilitates it, but it's Nikki's story and Nikki's experience and the experience of trans women as a whole.
Yeah. I'd like to hear you guys talk a little bit about the queer community. I mean, you're two parts of the queer community coming together, and this is where the word queer has always resonated with me, is that it is this umbrella term that actually feels like a real umbrella. The LGBTQ acronym has always felt a little disjointed to me, and it was almost mainstream's way of trying to deal with us as a group of people that don't necessarily actually go together. Not that we don't go together, but that like a trans person's experience is actually not exactly the same as a lesbian's or a gay man or a non-binary, now that we have even more words to talk about this. So what has been your journey with the queer community and LGBTQ community, and how do you feel about this word?
I mean, I've been aware of my sexual orientation, started coming out when I was 13. So it's a community that I've always felt home in, but at the same time, I feel like I also was there for the wave of being LGBTQ plus was this thing you had to hide, to suddenly we have terms like queer baiting now, which is something I would have never imagined back then. So for me, the biggest thing that I have noticed, I feel like the more we actually are progressing along, the more divided all of the acronyms of LGBTQIA plus are being divided. And I think that is because of the power dynamics and the power shifts, because suddenly we have gay marriage, so then the trans people are put to the side, and like, we can't do that. At the end of the day, we are all outsiders. To the degree of how ostracized we are from society does vary, but at the end of the day, we will not go forward unless we bring each other up. I feel like instead of, I feel like the LGBTQI plus community needs to stop trying to distinguish who belongs in what box. Like trans lesbians are as valid as cis lesbians. People who are on hormones are as valid as those who aren't, who are trans. Like, everyone's identity is completely valid. I feel that we need to focus on what brings us together and bring each other up if we want to go forward, and if we want the people in power to view us as equals, because how are they going to give us that equality if we don't give it to ourselves?
Exactly. It has to start from within our own community. And we have to be careful not to make the same mistakes that the cis world has made.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a bold statement, but I really feel like almost all of the world's problems are because of cis white men. Is that too crazy to say?
No.
I want to call it out because I don't think that they're the problem, but like you said in your interview, the culture that they've been raised in.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And it is the lack of checks and balances on a cultural level, and how we police the actions, the thoughts, the energies of cis white men in a way that allows us to live unharmed. It's not to restrict them from their life, it's just to protect us.
But I almost feel like they're not expressing the way they would love to express either. And I hesitate to say it because I don't want to talk for them. But what I know is that even from hearing
I'll
stories,
talk for him. Let's go.
even from hearing stories about men who wish they could be with you, and you happen to be trans, and then they don't because that would be too much for their image. I mean, there's the problem.
I mean, you said it just now. It's about their image. It's not about Nikki.
Yeah.
It is because of them.
Yeah.
And also, while we have always categorized typically from the progressive left as straight white men being the enemy, at the same time, it's also that pressure on themselves that they're victims in a very different way, but they're held to these standards where you can't cry, you can't have emotions, you need to have this front and this facade, or you aren't man enough. And if you don't live up to society's expectations of what a straight cis white man is, then what are you even? Because then there isn't an acronym to define you or a box to put you in.
And yet now we're tearing that down because of the Me Too movement, because of the queer movement, because of racial injustice that's finally light has been shed on it. And we are making changes that we've never seen before. So it's positive, and yet we live with Trump as the president. So that's where it also feels like we almost have to not go back, but we almost have to it's like a look behind, and to know we're never going back there again.
Kind of like when you're driving and you have the rear view mirror, you can't just look at that rear view mirror, you're going to get into a car crash. You're never going to go forward. But it's important to have it always from your peripheral to make sure that nothing hits you from behind.
Yeah. What is the future to you guys? How do we keep moving from this moment as a queer community?
I think that the most important thing we can do is practice radical empathy, because I feel so often, even within the queer community, if someone doesn't know something, so many of us, our reaction is defensive, which then just creates more walls. There was a point in life where none of us knew what these terms were. We all learned it at one point. So I think we need to stop being afraid to ask questions, and we also need to stop judging those who are asking. We need to find our commonalities versus where we are if we're ahead of someone else in the knowledge on a specific subject, because we can only go forward if we go together. If we're all pulling each other back and questioning why we aren't moving, that's not how we go.
The openness is what I'm sensing. Like when you get defensive, it's immediately like you're shut off from knowing something new. So, and I think the defensiveness comes from living a life where you had to defend who you are, or were ashamed of who you are, and so you had to defend that you were straight. Either way, I had to defend that I'm gay or that I'm straight, on both sides of coming out. So we have to get past that place of defending and rather just be open and, like you said, not judge others for asking a question or being curious. I
mean, I've recognized myself that the journey that we all have, we are not the only people who have ever had our journey, and we should just acknowledge that we are all entitled to have our own experience, even if some of our experiences are the same as others. It shouldn't break us that all of our experiences aren't the same. So we have different viewpoints, we have different beliefs, we have different ideas, interests, opinions. And if we can mix that with empathy, I think we would be a little bit stronger.
How can people support this? Is it that you need financial support, or that you need human power? Like if they want to support this to get it made?
Yeah, you can contact us. at the email address below. We'll make an email address.
Yes.
Yeah.
At the email address below, we love any help or support that we can get.
And if that is not something that you're interested in, if you are willing or want to reclaim any articles of clothing that you have experienced traumas in from male aggressors or any sort of aggressor, and want to reclaim that narrative, please feel free to do so. # wearing his closet.
Yes.
And we can add it to the list of people to feature.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you for what you both are doing. Thank you for explaining it all and being on the Queer Network and joining us for this 3rd season of Queer from the Couch. All of their information is below in the description if you guys want to follow them on Instagram, any social or all the social media platforms. If you guys have never been here before, you definitely need to watch the interview I did with Nikki before this, which I'll put a link in the description for as well, all about wearing his closet. And subscribe to the channel, like this video, share it, and follow them because they're amazing. And yeah, let's see where this documentary takes you.
Love it.
Love it. All right, we'll see you guys soon. Bye.
Bye.
If someone offered me the opportunity to do my life all over again but be a cis person, I would turn it down. I'm so thankful for the traumas that I've had because they showed me that I am literally unable to break. And if you are able to get out of bed, you are a goddamn powerful person. I'm so proud of my story, my journey, and my community. Believe me when I say that a world without trans people would be a much less colorful world to live in.
It was an idea that came at the perfect time that turned into a perfect idea in my eyes, into a beautiful piece of my history that allowed me to nurture myself, but also to give back to the community that allowed me to exist.